Hello and welcome to the program that takes you to the heart of Nigeria, people, politics, and power on Africa Independent Television, AIT. As usual, we are glad to have you this time on our program, where we have a focus on where we are indeed going as a nation. A lot of debates are on over all the spheres, like political, economical, and all the other things you want to talk about. It is clear, as some persons put it yesterday, that Nigeria as it currently constituted is not working. And when that begins to come from politicians who have been in the saddle, you understand what it means. In fact, Olagunsoye Onyola and his colleagues, his friends who teamed up together, gave a clear definition yesterday. The call for restructuring and federalism, some persons have warned us yesterday not to say true federalism, because federalism is federalism. There's nothing like false federalism and true federalism. It is either it is federalism or it is not federalism. But the call for a correct practice of federalism did not just start today. It evolved from a series of agitations arising from the marginalization question. Everyone, according to former Olusegun Obasanjo in Nigeria, cries for marginalization. We also have calls for minority rights, resource control, and the legitimacy of the 1999 Constitution. All have come to question. After many calls from different quarters, leaders and governors on the platform of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, on Thursday, June the 29th, 2017, that is last year, had a meeting to deliberate on the matter. At the end of that meeting, which held at the Imo State Governor's Lodge in Asokoro, in the heart of Abuja, a committee was set up to look into the many calls to restructure Nigeria. That committee, led by Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, after due deliberations, submitted this recommendation to the leadership of the party on Thursday, January 25th, for further deliberations. The committee recommended that power be evolved to states. It also recommended that 10 items be moved from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent list. Some of the items include police and prisons, registration of business names, labor, oil field, and geographical survey, amongst others. It gave a nod to state creation and MEGER, independent candidacy, and rejected local government autonomy. On the program, People, Politics, and Power today, our main focus is issue of state creation and MEGER, because we have to just really take one item out of it we can really focus on and talk on within the next 1 hour of the program. If the recommendations will fly, it is necessary to question and examine the viability of states to know which among these 36 states and the FCT can either stand on its own or go for a merger with a close-by state. In doing that, we shall be looking at the internally generated revenue of these states as compared to infrastructural development, capacity building, governance, and institutional development. Data that is available in the public domain has it that the 36 states in Nigeria generates 801 billion naira internally generated revenue, as against 2.6 trillion naira from the federal government's allocation pause, FAAC. The economic viability, the economically viable states, some persons have put it, include Lagos, Ogun, Rivers, Edo, KWARA, and Delta states. The meaning is that all the other states, as you see on the map, apart from these states, cannot stand on its own, cannot run its economy, cannot pay salaries, cannot even talk of development the way they are now. Now, to take a look at this, we need somebody who has development in mind. And I have joining me in the studio to take a look at the issues of the viability of states and development of states across Nigeria as an academic, a professor of development philosophy, Professor Andrew Efemini. Is the former Dean, Students Affairs, University of Port Harcourt. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on the program. When they say professors, one would expect you to look like the beards I'm carrying, and then you have white hair on your head, but you're young. And
well, first of all,
thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Yeah, let me say that it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you so much, sir.
And I want to thank everybody who facilitated my making it all the way from Port Harcourt to this place. And I hope we have an excellent discussion.
Thank you so much, and we do hope that we can get all. We'll have all the time to really talk about all the issues, and all the issues we have in mind. Now, the Ruling All Progressives Congress on Wednesday came up with, before we come to the issue, let's ask the questions that we need to lay the foundation for the issues that we have some sound bites about some of them, and then we talk about them. You have been in Nigeria.
Yes.
And what is good about you being in Nigeria is that you have also been in Nigeria, in the Niger Delta. So you saw all the agitations. As young as I've been in journalism, in the last 34 years, I have reported issues of the agitations that is going on in Nigeria. So it has been a long one. Now, where are we in this agitation?
Well, first of all, I think that the agitation is national in the sense that you have evidence that the general populace appear to have the belief that Nigeria can be better governed, and therefore we can really focus on development as human development related, as against the crisis of concentrating on projects, which has been the main focus of governments, not just in the Niger Delta, but Nigeria as a whole. And you know, if you focus on projects as the central focus of government, you are going to be leaving people in misery and in poverty.
Yeah.
And so if you go around the Niger Delta states, you notice that there is a big gap between projects executed and the living condition of people, and the poverty index is increasing. And therefore, people are restless and increasingly become restless at that. And we have no reason, therefore, not to understand why we have militancy, dissatisfaction with the state. But like you introduced the discussion, I'm one of those who think that we must give the restructuring agenda a very serious support.
Now you talked about some of those factors that threw up some of the crises in the Niger Delta.
Yes.
I want us to just take a flight to the northern part of Nigeria.
Correct.
Now, what are those things that we see on the grounds that are also as a result of a badly structured Nigeria?
Yeah, first of all, let me make one point. You try to rail out the resources that are available for states to function in this country. Believe me, and this is where this discussion needs to be taken very seriously. The total resources available for Nigeria to spend, corruption or no corruption, condemns us to being a poor people. We're a poor state. The resources.
We are a poor country. We are a poor nation.
Poor country. We are poor. Let's face reality. The resources we spend in Nigeria is the resources that service units in a state like US spend. The total resources we spend in Nigeria, which is roughly $35 billion, is the resources that fire service of New York spends. I
think you are putting it very
mildly
because I have a former very senior colleague of mine who came from the University of Lagos to become the chairman of our editorial board on The Guardian when I was on The Guardian newspapers.
Yes.
Professor Latujudari.
Correct. And
he moved from Nigeria after all the frustration to a very small university, Bradley University in the US.
Correct.
He gave me this account by himself.
Yes.
Now that university is a small university by every standard.
Correct.
Bradley University has a mass comm department where he was enlisted to. He said the budget of mass comm department of Bradley University is bigger than the 3 years total budget of University of Lagos. Meanwhile, this is a department that doesn't buy syringes, they don't buy what do you call them for scientific, this is a research that is based without a mass comm department. You are very correct to say we are very, very poor. But how many Nigerians actually know that we are poor?
No, you see, that's part of why this program is very important. My training is to focus on this whole struggle for development. And we need to appreciate why we cannot afford to joke with the restructuring agenda that we're battling with. In the north that you mentioned, besides the revenue that comes from the federal government, you know that many of the states cannot raise $1 billion naira in a month. In fact, I don't need to mention
$1 billion? That's too.
That's even high.
That's too ambitious.
Yes, I know of a state that is raising 300 million naira in a month. With that, believe me, you will not be in a position
even to run a local government.
You are not yet in a position to start talking about development. And that is why you see them, they tie 1 or 2 roads, pay meager salaries, and that is it. You know as much as I do that if you need to pay reasonable wages, competitive wages, the federal government will collapse, states will collapse, services will not be rendered. And all these, all the crises you see in the north, violence, Boko Haram, herdsmen, everything you see is directly or indirectly linked to the crisis of our structure, the crisis of the revenue available to us. Because in the long run, you need resources to change the human thinking. You need resources to create individual opportunities. You need resources to improve the productivity of citizens. In reality, it's not fiction. More than half of Nigeria's population produce nothing, and yet they have to live. They therefore have to live as parasites on the little that are productive. And so you see families where one person carries 15, 16 people, otherwise they die. That is precisely...
And if you take it to the healthcare, malaria
kills our people.
Yeah,
yes.
Even as little as 1,000 or 2,000 naira could take care of you people.
They go. In fact, I always say that there is a Nigerian way of dying. And that Nigerian way of dying is linked to the poverty index. And we are very serious. And so let me even surprise you. Our government, our economy survives by throwing more people into poverty. Because of the structure that we were talking about correcting. When you run into recession, you devalue the currency, you increase fuel price, you do all sorts of things, throw people into poverty.
I was when Yerima, the Senator Yerima was governor of Zamfara
State, yes.
I had the will I call it privilege now? I would say privilege. That would not. I had the misfortune of going to do a documentary.
Yes.
On development, and I went out of Guzo, the state capital, and I traveled along a road, third road. As I was going, I was headed for a local government headquarters, but as I was going, I saw some 4 or 5 people emerging from the bush path.
Yes.
So I told the driver to stop.
Yes.
I took the camera and I went. I trailed the bush path. I followed it. Not too far away, about 200 meters. I saw a pool of water, dirty, stinky pool of water. The cattle were drinking from it. Everybody, including the human beings, were drinking from it. And when I got back, I asked the governor, "Have you been to this place?" Now, our people are living. They are living next to, and we seem to be comfortable with the entire thing. Now, to the basis of, there's no doubt that there's poverty that is ravaging our people.
Yes.
But will restructuring solve the problem?
Before we go into restructuring, how it will solve, because yes, this water issue. Can you imagine that we pump crude oil from the Niger Delta to Kaduna Refinery?
Yes. Through a pipe.
Through a pipe. So why are you not pumping water around the country? Why do you have cities without water? The same technology.
Even for agricultural purposes.
For living, all those places you don't have water, you pump water, you market them with meters, and you make money. This still doesn't need, there's no rocket science any longer about such things. The same machine that drives crude drives water around. You go to Kenya, you don't see people suffering because you reticulate water around the country. You can borrow money from the World Bank and do it. The problem, of course, you know, is political. Getting these things through politics will also come in.
Yes.
But the science of reticulating water, in Yenego, they drink, I see water, yellow water everywhere. Those things are no longer necessary. You pipe water. Why do you have Ministry of Water Resources? What are they doing? And you will make money. They will be they will pay back themselves.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that? The truth is, you asked me whether restructuring can address.
Yes, can they address this problem?
Yes, restructuring has many philosophical underpinnings. First of all, we have caged ourselves, we have caged our economy, we have caged how we have lived for the past going to 40 years now. We simply get money, pay civil servants, meager resource, slave wages. I keep repeating. Wages that make them not safe and therefore not available to be drivers of the economy at the level of purchasing and things like that.
Wages that keep them until they are ready to retire and enter the real penury.
Wages that make them indebted
and
before they retire.
Wages that make them corrupt because they are afraid of the future.
Well,
because that's also an element
an element of the issue. You are correct. Wages. In fact, I wrote once in one of my Facebook posts that the president of the country should spend 18,000 naira that they pay workers in 1 month. If he can spend 18,000 buying drugs, cooking, doing everything, 18 from 1 month, first of 1 month to the next month, then I will accept 18,000 minimum wage. And bet me, when I did it, the least that was reasonable to be spent cooking, I even mentioned soup. I had to become very primary in doing the analysis. I came to about 65,000. And yet you are paying 18,000, which is less than 20 minutes walk in the United States. We're a human society. This human society you see here is the same human society you see in America. It's the same human society you see in Japan.
It's the same motivational model as is required there.
Absolutely. So, if you have a situation where you are not paying people properly, you have a situation where you have overbloated and unnecessary civil service, you have a situation where your institutions, universities, people are paid peanuts. As I speak to you now as a professor, I go to the US, they put me $5,000–$6,000. I come to Nigeria, I'm on less than $1,000. And the system is so caged, they think they're doing me a favor for paying me less than $1,000. As I speak to you now, restructuring will make sure that we correct some of these anomalies. What will restructuring do, depending on how it is carried out? That is why I like this issue of states combining.
Now let's take let's flag it off. Now we have talked generally. Let us come to specifics.
Yes.
And in talking specific about state creation, let's go to the ruling All Progressives Congress, which a party that on Wednesday, January the 31st, presented the Governor Nasir El-Rufai's committee report on true federal public, where it highlighted major recommendations made by the committee that can indeed settle the issue of restructuring Nigeria. National chairman of the party, John Odije Oyegu, in his remark, said the recommendations were put together after an all-inclusive opinion by what he called vast majority of Nigerians. I don't know where he got that figure from, but let's take a track off from him. Let's hear him out. Of course, I guess that we'll look for that. But the much talked about coalition for Nigeria movement on Thursday, January the 31st, disclosed their purpose in a forum put together to brainstorm on moving Nigeria forward. Prominent political figures and former governors like Donald Duke, you remember him? Yes. Cross River, and Olagunsoye Oyola championed the movement. And they say Nigeria, as it is now, is at a not responding mood. I don't know if we can get that picture very clearly. When you are at a not responding mood, it means you are dormant and should be rejigged. Do we have them talk about it? Let's see if we can have the sound bites. If we not, we continue with our discussion.
This is to promote the welfare of all citizens of a united Nigeria, guided by justice and fairness. In carrying out this task, we are taking into consideration the various calls for equity in political and social relationships across the various segments of the country. This movement, therefore, has it as its cardinal objective the promotion of equity and equality of opportunity for all our compatriots in order to have a truly just and united Nigeria.
What is happening now is I'm sure that a lot of the people up front and some of the people up here will know about Kafka's Metamorphosis, where a man ate so much one night he woke up a beetle. The beetle is beginning to wake up. Nigeria ate too much, became a beetle, not moving anywhere. And now we're waking up. I saw up there, I saw a lot of young ladies with hijabs on. That has not been seen in the nearest Nigeria. That's coming up. Even though one of the problems we have in Nigeria today is security. Now, we need to be able to focus on that. His Excellency Prince Oyinlola was saying that the youth will be leading us along. No, we're going to work together. It's a synergy whereby we have seen a few more moons than you. Obviously, our generation was also cheated because we were told each time we were too young to rule until we became old men. Now, we don't want that to happen to you all. We want to be able to pave the way, be a bridge to build the Nigeria of our dreams. That dream we want to see in our lifetimes also.
Today, our population is 196 million. It's going to be 206 million in 2 years. Our budget is 23 billion. Forget the story about having the largest economy in Africa. That's just a function of numbers. There's so many people in Nigeria, so even if they were doing nothing, we will still be the largest economy. However, in terms of productivity, we are nowhere. And if 39, 40 years ago, we were spending, our federal budget was 25 billion, and today it is 23 billion, and our population is more than doubled, our landmass is not expanded, then it graphically explains where we are and what we have to do. We need to get together and work as a collective to change our nation.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
Thank you so much for remaining with us on Africa Independent Television. We are still talking about Nigeria on people, politics, and power. And I have the visuals now of the first track that we had introduced, talking about the ruling All Progressives Congress on Wednesday, January the 31st, presented the Governor Nasir El-Rufai's committee report on true federalism. And it is the one that was presented to the public by the party, where it highlighted major recommendations made by the committee that can settle the issue of the agitation for restructuring in Nigeria. The national chairman of the party, John Odije Oyegun, in his remarks said the committee's recommendations were put together after an all-inclusive opinion by vast majority of Nigerians. Let's take a listen.
When last year the issue of restructuring burst into the public domain, the main reason being one more issue with which to thrash the Buhari administration. At that point, it was clear that this nation was facing major issues that couldn't wait and needed to be straightened out. We were faced with the crisis of the economy, a collapsed economy, a collapsed crude market. And so we had to find a new reality. President Buhari had to find a new reality for the Nigerian nation, a new economic reality based on the sweat of our people, based on what we can produce, a basis which will not be subject to the vagaries of the international crude market, based on the strength, the initiative, and the productivity of Nigerians themselves. I'm glad to say that the work on that foundation is virtually complete. And this nation is now set on the path of, yes, gradual growth, which will be irreversible. Irreversible because it is based on the labor, the sweat, the resources of Nigerians themselves. We were also faced with a second problem which had to be addressed urgently, the problem of security. That has been effectively tackled. Yes, when I say effectively tackled, I'm meaning the issues we inherited in terms of Boko Haram and the northeast of this nation. However, that is not to say that there haven't been new and perhaps equally serious security challenges. The assurance I can give today is that measures that I am sure will be effective are already being put in place to tackle that menace, the so-called cattle herdsmen menace, once and for all. We did not at that stage think that through federalism, restructuring, whatever connotations a lot of people call it, was an immediate problem. It was necessary to fix the economy. It was necessary to ensure, or at least lay the foundation of power, electricity as we all call it. Because without that, you cannot talk of meaningful development. It was necessary to lay the foundation of infrastructure. Because again, without a railway system, I am challenging anybody, without power, without a proper railway system, you cannot pretend to be developing. Growth you may be when they change papers in the finance market and we get in the indices that says Nigeria is making so much, is doing so well, is growing by X%. What is truly important when you talk of growth, we must have growth with development.
As the chairman has stated, the party formed this committee to explore and find meaning into the raging debate on true federalism. Restructuring came by several names. And the process started with extensive open public consultation because the committee made up its mind ab initio that this is an issue on which the committee will not have any opinion of itself.
It was an unveiling and a public presentation by the ruling APC. Why? But let me just ask my guests,
Yes.
A professor of development philosophy, what's your comment on this?
Well, I think that there is a chicken and egg.
Which one comes first?
Which one comes first? The issue of we need to fix the economy, we need to do all that, and therefore that is why we have not faced through federalism. It appears to me to be a challenge that we need to understand. Some of us have come to the conclusion that without restructuring, without political reform, all economic programs and policies of government will not yield the desired results. And it's not just because we are saying so.
Now let me try to understand this so that our people can follow us.
Yes.
What you are saying is that if you are looking at providing electricity, water, good hospitals, good roads, there can be a flow from solving the restructuring question first.
Yes, if you don't, that's what I'm saying. If you don't fix politics, and restructure is part of fixing politics, it is coming up with a people's constitution is part of restructuring. Coming up with a constitution that respects basic rights of all the citizens, and then that conveys to the international community the impression that a genuine country has emerged, is the precondition for moving on.
But you don't really need anybody to quickly tell you now that you are very correct. Because DJ Oyegun, the chairman of the APC, understands why the power has not been fixed, why the roads are still bad,
yes,
why the hospitals are not working. But the APC government started to solve those problems, whereas the major impetus that those solutions will come from, the kind of steps that should be taken, restructuring Nigeria, was left behind. But is it not good that actually they are coming back to it?
In fact, believe me, I am one of those working assiduously, encouraging people to show commitment to the restructuring agenda of the federal government. The reason I believe that this restructuring should be given the full support, you know, there are a lot of skeptics who believe that, oh, it can't work. It is, as long as Nigeria is concerned, it cannot be restructured in 2018, and therefore
the timing.
It is political propaganda. No, it's not true. I support it because I know that restructuring is a national consensus.
Can we look at the time?
Yeah, it's okay. Time.
We are assuming we want to, because
if they achieve restructuring between now and December, believe me, they may have won the election in advance.
No,
so they cannot afford
let us look at this.
Joke with this restructuring agenda on the table. They can't.
Let us take a look at this.
With all the doubting Thomases.
And let us take the issue that we are taking a look at today.
Yes.
We have said that not more than 4 or 5, at the most, states, 6 states in Nigeria that are economically viable.
Yes.
If we are taking a look at state creation and possibly merger, and we have how many months do we have to elections? Let us say 10 months to the elections. Can the APC government carry out the state's merger and creation they are talking about with regard to restructuring? How can we quickly do this if you are so optimistic that we can do this?
No, they can pass the decisions, pass the appropriate constitutional amendment, and then postpone the effective date. So we work to they develop a timetable. That's what I expect.
Okay.
In fact, I expect them to develop a timetable of systematic implementation of decisions that can be taken in 2 months. To even say they will start in May 2019 after the swearing of the president. It's possible. They can even put it 2 years, but the decisions will be taken, amendments to the constitution, everything done, which can be done. And that's what I'm saying that.
So we can set a timetable.
Yes.
This government within the next 1 year that it has in office can draw up a schedule,
yes,
look at the timetable, draw it up, mobilize Nigerians to say we are changing our constitution and it is going to take effect from so date.
Precisely. That's what I don't expect that they will say, oh, today constitution has changed. No. I want to talk about this merger or the merger. I wrote once that if you give Biafra, in quote, the Southeast, make it a state, who told you they will create 5 states out of it? They won't. Because what you have done is that you have created
pockets of
expenditure
and power, yeah.
Expenditure, recurrent expenditure, and then you are not really going to ever have resources to transform your society.
Or the Southwest with their vibrancy.
Or the Southwest, you guys there they go, you are now a state of your own. They tell you they will go and break into. No, at best they create provinces.
More local governments to reach out to the people.
They don't even need more local government. Create provinces. Look, there are states in the US that are as big as Nigeria.
Yes, Texas is almost.
There are states. I think Arizona is as big as Nigeria with a population of 7 million. You see? And then look at where we are. So the point I'm making is that the major thing is a concentrated philosophical position that the APC is putting forward, which I believe the elite need to debate very carefully. The reason why they need to debate it carefully is that one of the impediments of sustainable development in this country is expenditure pattern that up to the World Bank elite people know that our expenditure pattern is not pro-production, it's not pro-industrialization. You earn your money.
It's not pro-efficiency.
It's not pro-anything. So, if genuinely...
Maybe pro-failure.
You see, so if genuinely we really want to be a viable country, this issue of regions, the South-South region, whatever, zones, becoming the main...
The political definition.
Of states. And then they now, if you like, all the heads of these zones, if you like, call them premier. And you create within a zone maybe 6 provinces, no more local government. Because as far as I'm concerned, local governments are a waste. And in an internet age, you don't need that. Luckily for us, state police is being created. So you have a lot of places to move manpower into the police. If you are below certain age, go to the police. In that way, you can now see that you can carefully manage the civil service character and number into where they will be useful to society. Because security is one of the major challenges. It's like River State where I belong to, where I come from. The level of unemployment in River State, in fact, they've made us the worst in misery index in the country. Why? The resources are not filtering to the grassroots. Many of the rural communities in River State are not economically viable. And these are the issues that restructure is talking about. You have a governor who is called Mr. Project, building roads, but go to the rural communities. Massive unemployment, misery of the people, acknowledged now by statistics. So when you focus on restructuring, you are precisely saying that you now want the best form that you can organize your society, and then marginalization will be a thing of the past. No envy. People become self-committed. Remember that same report talks about citizenship right.
Yes.
That right is usually in a constitution. The details become a function of legal battles, legislation, over years. When America put up the Citizen Bill of Rights, blacks were still suffering discrimination. Yeah. But they put that as a necessary ideal. So citizenship rights, is an ideal. You don't need to go... Constitutions don't contain so many of the things you see in Nigeria.
Specifics here.
Nigerian constitution is too bulky. In fact, constitution is a simple document of ideas. But our own is almost a charter of how to live 1 minute to the other, 1 minute to the other, what you cannot do, what you can do, Sharia, this, that. Things that shouldn't be in the constitution in the constitution. Because our people have not come to terms with what a constitution is. And in fact, provisions of the constitution is part of the reason why we have instability in this country. So I'm just hoping that this opportunity of this reform will give us opportunity to have clean bill.
Now let me go to the very base.
Yes.
The question that many people, I have to ask you this.
Yes.
Do you believe these politicians, these leaders, whether APC, whether those who are convening an emergency meeting, do you believe that they sincerely will focus on Nigeria and bring about a solution? Because what I hear is that leave them, it is because they are out of crisis, they are being forced to do it, the APC government, they don't really have it under their agenda. After all, the president told us that it is not as important as what he thinks. Yeah. Do you believe that these leaders can holistically, in the spirit of getting solutions, face this problem head on? Do you believe?
First of all, I want to say that I have sympathy for the APC and its commitment to restructuring. On Facebook, people know that I'm 100%, in fact 200% pushing it, because anywhere restructuring will come into this country, like I jokingly said, if the devil wants to give it to me, I will take it. Because if you don't do it, we will not start. So whether they like it or not, I believe that when you have a government, there are times you take a position. The pressure from the ordinary people, the pressure from the constituent parts will become an imperative at a point.
Is that what is happening to the government?
To all of us. This thing is not just about APC, it's all of us. If you don't support the restructuring today, you are postponing our doomsday. Because in the long run, what do you think government will achieve with this? Look at the universities. As I speak to you today, university students are not able to pay fees. There are crises all over the Nigerian university system over fees. Portals should open, portals should not open. People being locked out and not locked out. All these are linked to restructuring or no restructuring. And then the role of government in the affairs of human beings and citizens.
So we don't really have a choice?
We have no choice. Any person who says we have a choice wants us to postpone our doomsday. So that is why I like what the governor of Bayelsa said, that the PDP and the APC, all the parties, They must form a committee to drive this thing to a logical conclusion. Believe me, this thing can be achieved in 6 months. And a timetable will now come for implementation. I'm very proud of Bender State. If they tell Bender Delta and Delta to emerge, I will celebrate. I'm more conscious of Bender State. Bender State is more in my blood than some of the things we are seeing today. And I'm sure it's the same for many people. So all we need is to have a template for a just and balanced system. And reason puts it across. Some of these crises you are seeing, herdsmen, no herdsmen, which
they'll fizzle out.
They don't even need to exist. You know what I tell people? How do you come with people that you call them herdsmen? How did you come about that kind of culture? Where somebody comes at the age of 6, 7 years, is falling cattle the rest of his life. You don't know you'll be angry? Where do you have herdsmen all over the world? What culture is that? These are some of the issues that we need to tackle as a people.
Gunpowder.
We must free them. They are human beings like us. As I'm educated as a professor, they need to be professors. And to do that, what is the solution?
Education.
Education, and then you do modern ranching. In modern ranching, you can build 28-story building for cattle. They move around. Educated people will manage them. We must free those people who are calling cattlemen, ranchmen, herdsmen. Yes. It pains me. It pains me. How do somebody move from cattle from Abuja now to
Port Harcourt?
For what? These are the issues that we need to deal with in federalism. Those cultural things that are backward we ascribe to our people. That is unjeti bit, and I see the level of criticism of herdsmen killing. These are the signs that our society needs to change.
So those who are calling for grazing reserve are actually calling for the perpetuity of this slavery.
Of slavery, the people are our slaves. They are modern slaves. We need to end certain things. And I hope that those who are running this country actually believe that intellectuals can resolve many of our problems, because we can't continue to use primitive solutions when the world has gone technological. Science has become the basis of how people live today. The beef industry in Britain is as big as the national economy of Nigeria. And we can do the same. 28 stories.
And we have more population. We have more people.
We have more people. And that's why they can make mockery of us when they see us abroad. I believe that those APC leaders, they have come to realize that we must move in a new direction.
And so we should support them.
100%. 100% support. And if I've always been fighting with people who try to put pessimism on the agenda for this discussion. I don't want to see pessimism. We need to push and see where the obstacle will come from.
Now, just before, as we begin to round up,
yes,
let us look at the states in Nigeria.
Yes.
You talked about Midwest, Bender,
yes,
Edo Delta currently.
Yes.
I can imagine what will happen if you have good leaders in a merged Bender.
Ha!
Or Midwest, you want any name you want to call
That's
it.
That's like a country.
It's like a country of
unbeatable in sports in those days.
Yes, with all the
Bender Insurance was like was like Arsenal. Unbeatable in talent. You see, as you bifurcated the state, all sorts of centrifugal forces entered there. Enter Delta State and see the level of poverty. Because they carry salary, it comes, they pay all sorts of institutions. Money no longer goes to the ordinary people in Delta State. Go and see the level of poverty in Delta State. You'll be wondering whether Delta State is a human state. Go to rural communities. Some don't see 1 naira, even when the state gets billions every month, because of the structure. And it is a structure we are saying we need to correct, so that government can, through appropriate policies like cooperatives, then get people to be productive, because our challenge is to get Nigerians to be productive.
Rather than being consumed.
Instead of being in class, you don't know what you're doing in class. You're a civil servant, you don't pass any file. What is really working in Nigeria that we want to be proud of? Government survive by devaluing currency. Government survive by increasing fuel price. That's how they survive for the past almost 30 years. They throw people into misery to survive. Instead of increasing productivity, look at in the United States now, wages are increasing. They are so scared in Nigeria to talk about minimum wage. Because you press calculator, if they have to pay well, the resources is simply not there. So because what do we do with government? Minimum wage is not good enough.
What are the impediments? Now we have a political structure. It is said in social science that the first law of nature is self-preservation.
Yes.
Now, those who war against it, because they are probably not going to be benefiting the way it's going to be. Can you, just in a nutshell, tell us the challenges we are going to have in getting to state measures that will make the component entities that will emerge from this restructuring? What are those things that will militate against it?
You see, you need to have a proper electoral system that doesn't disadvantage those who want to merge. Very important. And they talk about two-thirds, all those things that create problem in the constitution. You need to deal with them. So that when people merge, they merge focusing on development.
Their power, political powers are not inevitably reduced.
Exactly. Very important. And then when you do that, you then have a program of self-reliance over time. These states you see in the north you think are not viable. I did an analysis to show that the northern part of the country is actually supposed to be the gold of Nigeria, because agriculture is supposed to be the engine room of our being as a people. Malaysia produces palm produce and generates about $40 billion from palm produce alone, and they took it from Nigeria here. Where is our own equivalent of palm produce of 40 billion that Malaysia took from here? Where is our granite pyramids? These things are all possible. When you restructure, you plan properly. In America, if you buy a finger of banana, you pay tax.
Yes.
So there are tax economies in the US based on agriculture. We have simply refused to be a rational society. That's part of the problem. We are a society that live on faith.
So how do we jump over this primordial?
Exactly, correct language, primordial. As we speak here, you don't speak, say the truth, open people's eyes, and then there's no motion to ensure that they follow up. That's part of the problem. There is a follow-up crisis in this country. You have somebody who says, oh, this is how to go about developing your country, you can be like America. And then you have one man who is scheming to be governor of a state that will not generate revenue. It is only a momentum that can save our people from the kind of terrible, self-inflicted misery. You see, the whole South is always complaining because we have not governed ourselves. Believe me, if the APC manages this issue properly, it can open a national dialogue, which is part of the manifesto.
Yes.
A reconciliatory dialogue. They need to make a reach out to all parts of this country. Let's form not all this new coalition. All those things don't excite me. You come as a ruling party. There is a time for reckoning. You reach out, bring all Nigerians together. And then as a people, we think through our problems. Where we don't have enough expertise, we invite them. And then we deal with the issue of where we are. And then we make progress. Electricity. If you go and borrow $30 billion, remove all Nigerian officials, bring a small country like Iran to come and give us light in Nigeria. You have light. You see? So Nigeria is exactly the very reason why you don't have light. Structure. You are laboring. Exactly that you are laboring.
Running on the spot.
You are running on the spot. How can you have the possibility of being a black race pride and you are stalling development in Africa? Nigeria is the reason why Africa is underdeveloped. If Nigeria doesn't get it right, Africa will not change. And for how long are we going to this punishing Africa? Because of the kind of bad politics we play here. If you don't reform politics, Nigeria will not change. If you don't create the conducive atmosphere for development to take place, it will never. Development is not about economic activities. Even in the animal farm, they have activities. In the jungles, animals have economy. So this economy is growing economy. Those things don't development and economic growth, they are not the same. I'm for development, and I'm aware that our Nigerian ordinary people, students, parents, they are yearning for development. And we can do it. All we need is follow up on these activities by the APC. They are the ruling party, so we need to give them the opportunity to see through their vision.
All right.
Yes.
He is a professor of development philosophy. He's a former dean of Students Affairs, University of Port Harcourt. So when he's talking passionately about development, you understand how it goes deep into his heart. And possibly so. Now, we have to begin to wrap up.
Yes.
We have 36 states and Abuja.
Correct.
It was the former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, that said Abuja is a lie. Succinctly put, he said Abuja is a lie. And I extended it to say Nigeria is a lie.
Yes.
The falsehood is what is appearing.
Yes.
How do we do all these things like the rat inside the pot? We get the rat dead and the pot safe. How do we go about it?
Well, you see, my frustration is that civil society organizations, and particularly the Nigeria Labour Congress, appear to be operating in a trap mode, and therefore they are not able to drive some of these processes. If the Nigeria Labour Congress were to be a conscious union, Nigeria would have restructured 20, 30 years ago. They accept the status quo as it is and operate on the basis of the status quo.
So how do we go about without destroying, without giving vent to people who say Nigeria will break into pieces and that people will go their different ways? How do we achieve your dream of Nigeria's restructured Nigeria with all the functionality as much as possible?
If the ruling party today, like we said, consults broadly, because I know that what they are doing is a function of reaction from all over the state. So many groups have said.
Although the chairman of the APC said majority of Nigerians, I don't know where he got that.
Yeah, because you see Efemini, Ohaneze, South, everybody says it's restructuring. Prominent patriotic people from the north all over say it's restructuring. So for me, that is a correct position that arises from all of us. The southeast, like I said, they feel marginalized. But those things can easily be dealt with.
How do we do it without? How do we do it without destroying?
Yes, how you do it in my own. It should have
remaining one.
Yes, it should have been confidential. But those quarrels about bias in appointment and that, draw up a list of possible assignment of office. I'm talking about the ruling party, for example.
Yes.
And then they will see how it will be corrected in 2019, because nobody wants to open the chest for you to shoot.
Yeah.
So you do that. Say, okay, these issues will be corrected. This is what you are going to get. This is what you are going to get. When you do that, people see their stake, see what they are voting for. It becomes a public document. Not when after election you bring your brother, bring your auntie, bring your that and that, which is human, and then you scatter the whole political arrangement.
Can we restructure Nigeria without Nigeria breaking up?
Of course, restructure
how do we do it?
Well, now who is going to break Nigeria? Nigeria is not breaking up. You know, I always tell people.
But there are fears that if you...
Let me tell you, Nigeria cannot break up. Before you break up this country, remember that United Nations will have to recognize those countries.
Yes.
And I can bet you here now, quote me, Britain can never vote in favor of a broken Nigeria. And if Britain exercises its veto against breakup, you will be 100 years like Sahara Republic and fighting, and you will not be a country. So the best bet is to restructure Nigeria through a proper federation. It's our best bet. Any other thing is anarchy for you, anarchy for me, doomsday for all of us. Collectively, we ruin our future. So all challenges we have can be managed under cultural autonomy and federalism. All crises you have. Mention anywhere, I'll tell you have.
So what you would recommend, if I get you correctly, is for the ruling government, as it were,
yes,
the APC, to broaden this discussion.
Absolutely.
And get everybody sucked into it.
They have the power. They are in power. Bring people in. You people are angry. Okay, come, let's talk about everything. Discussion, negotiation is the solution to everything.
Another conference?
No. Negotiation. You talk to people. Well, you are already having a paper. Like the governor of Bayelsa said, throw up a committee to see through this. And in that committee you are drawing up, bring everybody into it. Don't discriminate. No need for overbearing. Restructuring is better for the North. Believe me, I've done a paper on it. We don't have time for that, but restructuring is better for the North than the South. Believe me.
Because they will feed all of us. With the agriculture.
They feed West Africa. They feed West Africa. They become proud people. They have their dignity to protect. As it is now, they are hated. There is all sorts of attitude towards them because of
acrimony here
and there. Not necessary. You have to develop a free mind and you solve your problem as a country, and Nigeria will be better off. In fact, once we improve Nigeria, Benin Republic will feel us. Ghana will feel us. United Nations will now know that Nigeria has become a country. Investors will flow into this country the way it has never happened since 1914. Until you do that, they won't come.
All right. It is like, do we have the cart before the horse, or do we have the horse before the cart?
Exactly.
Like he said, we need to do the appropriating first. The APC has just suddenly realized that they started from the wrong place, but we must commend them for now realizing that restructuring is the answer to some of the solutions that they tried to prefer to some of the problems, some of the endemic problems that can only be solved through restructuring, which includes creation, devolution of powers as they enumerated. But I've had a very beautiful day with a professor of development philosophy, Andrew Efemini. He's a former Dean of Students Affairs of the University of Port Harcourt. And of course, his show here, including the passionate approach to the issue, shows that we have many people in Nigeria who can indeed be consulted, who can be put together to say, how do we go forward? If we don't have them here, let us invite them from abroad. So many Nigerians are out there just waiting to be invited to come and help solve the problem of Nigeria. I must thank you for joining me on the program, sir, in examining some of this. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yes, my pleasure. A very big good luck to the All Progressive Congress because they have so much at stake now.
And that's the program. People, Politics and Power will return. When we come back, we have another focus on some of the other issues raised in the polity. My name is AGAIBNST. Thanks for staying with us.